Dad next door showed. Daniel Martinez wiped the grease from his hands as he stepped into the corridor of Habitat Ring 7, the centrifugal hum a constant companion in the Mars Colonial Station. 3 years into his contract as a maintenance engineer, and the sound had become as natural as breathing. He balanced a toolbox in one hand and his daughter Emma's hand in the other. "Daddy, can we get ice cream from the commissary?" Emma asked, her 6-year-old voice echoing off the curved metal walls. "After dinner, princess, we need to." A small figure appeared at the end of the corridor. Daniel froze. Even after 18 months of cohabitation with the Kalari refugees, seeing one of them still triggered something primal in his brain. The child was barely 3 feet tall, her skin a pale violet that seemed to shift in the artificial lighting. 3 amber eyes blinked in sequence across her forehead, and delicate antennae curved back from her temples like question marks made of opal. She wore a standard-issue children's jumpsuit, but her 4-fingered hands twisted nervously at the fabric. Daniel recognized her, Orla, from Unit 7C, the family that had moved in 2 months ago. "Mr. Daniel," her voice came out in perfectly accented English, though her translator implant flickered at her throat. "Can you fix our door? Mommy's scared." Emma tugged at Daniel's hand. "Daddy, help her." Daniel crouched down to Orla's level, setting his toolbox aside. Up close, he could see the bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin, pulsing with what he'd learned was anxiety. "What's wrong with your door, sweetheart?" "It won't lock, Mommy says." Orla's antennae drooped. "Mommy says bad people might come, like on Kalara Prime." Daniel's chest tightened. He'd read the reports everyone had. The Kalari homeworld, glassed by the Confederation's automated defense grid in a catastrophic misidentification. 3 billion dead. The survivors scattered across human colonies, broken families clinging to whatever sanctuary they could find. "Show me," Daniel said softly. Orla's face brightened, or at least, the bioluminescence intensified. She grabbed his free hand with surprising gentleness, her skin cool and slightly textured. Emma took his other hand, and together the unlikely trio walked down the corridor. Unit 7C's door panel flickered with angry red warnings. Daniel set down his toolbox and pulled out his diagnostic pad. Emma and Orla stood together, whispering to each other in the way children do, forming instant friendships that adults had forgotten how to make. The door chimed, and Orla's mother appeared. Thera was taller than her daughter, nearly 5 feet, with the same violet skin but darker, more pronounced bioluminescent patterns. She wore the medical technician uniform from the station hospital. Her 3 eyes widened when she saw Daniel. "I apologize for my daughter bothering you," Thera said, her English more formal, more hesitant than Orla's. "I was going to submit a maintenance request." "No bother," Daniel interrupted gently. "That's what neighbors do." Thera's antennae quivered. He'd learned that meant surprise or uncertainty. On Kalara, we had a saying, "Strangers fix machines, neighbors share breath." You are being very kind to be a stranger doing a neighbor's work. Daniel smiled. "Well, maybe we can work on becoming neighbors then." He turned to the door panel, running diagnostics. The lock mechanism was functional, but the security protocols had been corrupted. Not unusual in the older sections of the station, but troubling nonetheless. However, what caught his attention was something else entirely. "Thera," he said carefully, "your biometric scanner is offline. That's why the lock won't engage. It can't verify authorized users." "I turned it off," she admitted quietly. "The scanner, it uses facial recognition optimized for human features. Sometimes it doesn't recognize us. I feared being locked out with Orla inside." Daniel sat back on his heels, understanding dawning. The station's infrastructure was decades old, built before first contact with the Kalari. Before anyone knew humans weren't alone. Every system, every protocol, every line of code assumed human users. "I can fix this," he said, But it's going to take some time. The biometric database needs to be updated with Kalari phenotypic data. That sounds expensive, Thera said softly. I cannot afford. No charge. Daniel pulled up his personal terminal. I've been working on a universal biometric protocol in my spare time. Your family can be my beta testers. Why would you do this? Thera's antennae straightened, genuine confusion coloring her voice. Daniel glanced at Emma, who was teaching Orla some kind of hand-clapping game, both girls giggling. Because you're scared in your own home, because your daughter worries about you, because, he paused, choosing his words carefully. Because when my wife died 2 years ago, I was terrified of being alone with Emma on the station. Our neighbors, people I barely knew, they brought food, watched Emma when I fell apart, helped me remember how to be human. They didn't ask why, they just did it. Thera's bioluminescence shifted to a warm gold pattern. Daniel had seen enough Kalari to recognize it as emotional depth, perhaps gratitude. I have shifts at the hospital, Thera said. But if you need someone to watch Emma while you work, Orla and I would be honored. Over the next 3 hours, Daniel worked on the door panel while the 3 females, 2 human eyes, 3 alien eyes, all equally bright with wonder, played in the small living space. Thera brought him tea, a Kalari blend that tasted like mint and starlight. He told her about his work, about Emma's school struggles, about the loneliness of being a single parent light years from Earth. She told him about Kalara, about crystal cities that sang in the wind, about losing her husband in the glassing, about the guilt of survival. They talked as their daughters played, 2 broken people finding unexpected companionship in the cold metal bones of a Mars station. The biometric scanner proved more challenging than expected. Daniel had to rewrite core recognition algorithms, teaching the system that 3 eyes were as valid as 2, that violet skin registered life as surely as brown. He integrated Kalari biosignatures, the subtle electromagnetic fields their bodies generated, the harmonic frequencies of their translator implants. It's fascinating, Daniel muttered, more to himself than anyone. Your people's biology is so elegantly efficient. The bioluminescence isn't just communication, it's thermoregulation, emotional expression, even a form of distributed computing across social groups. Your people's curiosity is your greatest strength, Thera replied, and perhaps your greatest danger. You reached for the stars before understanding if the stars wanted to be reached. Fair point. Daniel made a final adjustment. Try it now. Thera placed her hand on the scanner. It hummed, analyzed, and the door panel flashed green. Relief washed over her features, her bioluminescence blooming into patterns Daniel had never seen before, like flowers opening to sunlight. It works, she whispered. We are safe. You were always safe here, Daniel said, but now the door knows it too. Orla ran to her mother, and Thera scooped her up in a gesture so universally maternal that Daniel's throat tightened. Emma tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, can Orla come over for dinner, please? Daniel looked at Thera, who looked back with those 3 amber eyes that held galaxies of loss and tentative hope. Only if Thera joins us too. I'm making spaghetti, and I always make too much for just 2. That night in Daniel's small quarters, 2 species shared a meal. Emma taught Orla how to twirl pasta on a fork. Daniel and Thera discussed station politics, colony expansion, and the small mundane details of life that transcend biology. Orla's translator sometimes glitched on Earth idioms, leading to bursts of laughter. Emma insisted on showing her new friend her collection of Mars rocks, each one meticulously labeled. As Thera and Orla prepared to leave, Orla hugged Emma, then unexpectedly hugged Daniel's leg. Thank you for fixing our door, Mr. Daniel. Mommy's not scared anymore. Anytime, kiddo, Daniel said, his voice rough. At the door, Thera paused. On Kalara, we had another saying, walls make houses, but breath makes homes. Thank you for sharing breath with us. Thank you for trusting me too, Daniel replied. After they left, Emma climbed into her father's lap. Daddy, Orla told me that on her planet, purple meant friendship. She says her skin turns purple around friends. Is that so? Uh-huh, and she was really purple today, the most purple she's ever been. Daniel held his daughter close, looking at the door panel he'd reprogrammed. A simple fix, really. Code and circuits. But somehow, in solving one family's fear, he'd found something he didn't know he was searching for: connection in the void, warmth in the cold. A reminder that consciousness and compassion weren't human traits but universal ones. Tomorrow, he'd submit his universal biometric protocol to station administration. He'd recommend retrofitting every door, every scanner, every system that assumed humanity's monopoly on belonging. But tonight, he simply held his daughter and thought about violet skin turning purple, about doors that recognized all who deserved safety, about little girls asking for help and fathers who showed up to answer. In the end, that's what neighbors did. They shared breath. They made homes.